Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reporting that the Eagles are set to interview Ron Rivera. Now, on allphly.com, you can read my sort of rundown of the 18 people who I think are going to be on the Eagles' radar to some degree. We talked about the buckets last week. There are the experienced head coaches who can just sort of take over the defense. Nick doesn't have to worry about that at all. There are sort of the in the ecosystem defensive coordinator guys like Martindale and Nielsen, and then there are the guys who you could take a shot on and think this is the next big thing, defensive coordinator. I am of the opinion that if the Eagles are keeping Nick Sirianni, which it seems like they are going to do, what makes sense to me is on the defensive side of the ball, hiring one of those old heads, if you will, someone who can just take over the defense, bring it some professionalism, some competency, and allow Nick Sirianni to focus on the offense and not worry about having to meddle in the defense, having to worry about whether he can trust that side of the ball. On offense, I think they should go the other way. I think what they need on offense is not the Frank Reich type. I think it is somebody who can bring fresh eyes and like a new way of looking at things, like a Liam Cohen type, right, from Kentucky. But and so Rivera is interesting to me. I prefer Leslie Frazier, I think. I think the track record's better. I think he has run a defense more recently. But Rivera is certainly of that ilk. It has been a while since he has been a defensive coordinator, not since 2010.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I also want to pump you up. You mentioned that piece. Definitely check that out because I thought it was a really good breakdown of the candidates and the types of candidates. I think the big name, former head coach, now defensive coordinator, probably makes sense in terms of where they're going. One could say, wasn't that what Matt Patricia was? And I suppose so. But you're hiring a person, not just a type here. And Leslie Frazier would make a lot of sense to me. He's been a defensive coordinator more recently. He's obviously been a head coach, knows the organization. I think that his background in that McDermott scheme is interesting, but he's also worked under Marvin Lewis, right? He's worked with
Jim Johnson.
Yeah, well, yeah, he obviously worked with Jim Johnson, but I'm saying since then.
Yeah.
Right? So there's different components there.
I like the story that his statistics in that article paint. They were very good defenses. They consistently sort of outperformed their success rate. He was never like super blitz heavy or not blitz heavy. He was always sort of in the middle. And I think like when you think of Leslie Frazier, you think of sort of a steadiness, which is, I think, exactly what they need.
Yeah. And in Ron Rivera's case, like I have a lot of respect for Ron Rivera and, Jeffrey Lurie knows him well. Jeffrey Lurie, he said in 2020 that Ron Rivera's like family.
What was the length of time between the reporting that the Eagles are interviewing Ron Rivera and you knowing that you had that quote ready to go?
Well, that's right away, right? Like I know Ron Rivera's connection to Jeffrey Lurie. I was there when Jeffrey Lurie said it, and I've been on a number of conference calls with Ron Rivera over the years when he was in Carolina, then he was in Washington, where the question invariably comes up about Philadelphia's time with the Eagles. And he talks about the Lurie family. Ron Rivera has a strong background with, he has a background with the Eagles. It's been a long time since he's called a defense. Now, when he was in Carolina, when he was in Washington, there was, he's obviously the head coach. He's overseeing a defense there. But I think Leslie Frazier makes more sense there. I found that the two names that Diana put out, like Wink Martindale, I've always been impressed with his groups. Now you mentioned on Friday's show that it might not make sense, like personnel wise.
I don't think it makes sense in any way.
Okay,
honestly,
and then
like he's a combative personality. This has been proven over and over again. I don't think they need that dynamic. Like his all or nothing, like defensive philosophy is interesting and it's fun to watch. It hasn't really gotten great results, and like it is not the way that the Eagles think about football philosophically. Like they don't want that on defense. I don't think. Certainly, I don't think Sirianni wants it. I know that Howie Roseman doesn't want it, and so yeah, I would be shocked if he is the hire.
Yeah. Unless they were so like blown away by what the blitz did to them that all of a sudden they're like, we need the blitz other
Yeah,
teams.
unless they truly had never heard of the concept of a blitz
Yeah,
until now,
yeah,
and
the
they're like, oh,
overcorrection.
here's a guy who knows how to blitz.